Hello, junkies. Welcome to episode number 15 of the Nocturnal Throwback podcast. The only podcast that gives you that special feeling way down deep when you hear this time warp version from 2007 when I did the first draft of Nocturnal being podcast as I wrote it every week. We have some big news that we cannot yet reveal, but it is big news soon, very soon. We will have a release date for the audiobook of Mount Fitzroy, the sequel to Earthcore, and we will finally be able to tell you who the publisher is. We've been sworn to secrecy, which is something evil overlords are very, very good at. I'm also 70% of the way through the final draft of The Gangster, GFL Book 6, and it's looking like we might, I repeat, might have both properties out before the end of the year. And hopefully you're not out at the beach or packed into bars or at parties so that you're still alive when these books come out, because we hate it when our fans die. Oh, if you are tired of waiting for GFL 6 and you're upset with us for taking so long, we understand. We got you. After the episode, I will tell you how you can get your money back if you so choose. This episode of the Nocturnal Throwback is fun because the original Talkie Talk from way back in 2007 mentions it was the 3rd anniversary of Scott Sigler audiobooks. Aw, it was just a little baby podcast, just a toddler podcast back then, and that was 12 years ago. We are now in our 16th year of podcasting. It's bonkers. Now that some of you who listened to that podcast way back when feel very, very old, let's get into it. Here is Nocturnal Throwback, episode number 15. Welcome to the free podcast novel Nocturnal, episode number 15.
Nocturnal is a podcast-only novel you can't buy in stores and you can't peek at the end. Written and performed by Scott Sigler. More information and more free stories at scottsigler.com. This book contains adult language, mature situations, and lots of violence.
Hello, junkies, and here we go with episode 15, once again, right on time. Couple of really quick things, then we'll jump right into the episode. First, my travel is done through April, so look forward to even more punctual placement of Nocturnal episodes. Second, the Sigler Stank book tour has been announced. Wednesday, April 2nd in Los Angeles at Book Soup. Friday, April 4th in Seattle at Barnes & Noble Downtown. Saturday, April 5th in San Francisco at Borderlands Books. Wednesday, April 9th, New York, Borders Columbus Circle. That's at their flagship store and they're fired up about it. And then we finish up on Friday, April 11th in Houston, Texas at Murder by the Book. You can go to scottsigler.com to get more information on the book tour. If you're from any of those areas, I need to see you guys there. And we'll talk more about this at the end of the episode. Also at the end of the episode, JC Hutchins and I made the cover of Blogger and Podcaster magazine. I'll talk about that. And I have a big announcement about the upcoming 3rd anniversary of Scott Sigler podcasting. And I'm going to launch my next free audiobook starting March 3rd. Tune in to the end of the episode if you want to hear about that. But for now, let's get into the story so far, and then let's get into Nocturnal.
Are you really gonna let make me read? Ah! Okay. I'll read it. Hello. My name is T. Morris, and I'm here to bring you the story so far. Can I at least mention tmorris.com? Ah! All right. I'll read it. San Francisco homicide detective Bryan Clauser and Pookie Chang just finished talking to retired homicide detective Francis Parkmeyer. You know, Parkmeyer was reading my book, Moravian. Ah! Okay. Parkmeyer, who told them that a shadowy group within the police department has been covering up murders committed by Jebediah Erikson, also known as the Savior. The Savior kills by bow and arrow, the same weapon used to kill murder witness Marco Gastineau 3 days earlier. Gastineau witnessed the murder of Kyle Solar, principal of Galileo High School. 4 students and teachers from that school have been murdered in the past week, and another 3 are still missing. I'm also missing. They've gone away right now, but I was just working on my latest podcast, which you can find out at moravi.net, and these things, they grabbed me. Wait, they're coming back. They're coming back. Sorry, I had something in my throat. 4 students and teachers from that school have been murdered in the past week, and another 3 are still missing. Bryan and Pookie have been tracking those murders and finally have a prime suspect, 13-year-old Rex Depravichuk, also a student at Galileo. That same night, Rex had visitors. Strange visitors. 3 men that could only be described as monsters. And 1 tortured captive. Isaac Moses, one of the missing Galileo students who had tormented Rex endlessly over the past few years. The tables were turned, and now Isaac is at the mercy of Rex. Bryan and Pookie are on their way to Rex's house, but will they get there in time to save Isaac Moses? And now, episode 15 of Nocturnal. There. I read it for Sigler. Now can I... Wait a minute. Wait. No!
Pookie parked a block away from Rex Depravdichuk's house. That was a common practice for the team of Klauser and Chang. Sometimes walking up to a perp's place gave you more options, was less conspicuous. Subtlety, calmness, keeping things as quiet as possible. That was how you rolled when you wanted to get the job done. They got out of the car and walked down Jackson Street. Even at this late hour, people, mostly Chinese, mostly old, walked along the sidewalks. The old Chinese folks moved fast, heads down, feet taking short but quick steps. "How do we keep this from Zoe?" Bryan asked. "Keep what from her?" "That we're talking to Rex. She told us to back off." "She told us to back off the slasher investigation," Pookie said. "She didn't see anything about the Galileo murders." But those are the same thing, Pooks." "You know that. I know that. And she knows that. But she can't tell us to back off the killings of a bunch of kids." "But if she knows the cases are connected, why not pull us off completely?" "Because that would be suspicious, Bri. People might ask questions, and she doesn't think we're going to solve this anyway." "She thinks it's just going to stop. Like Parkmeyer said, the killings will just stop." "When Erikson nails the killer. She doesn't want us to pursue the slasher angle because she knows it could lead us to Erikson." "Which it already has." "But she doesn't know that. If she did, you can bet your ass we'd be off the whole thing." "Or worse." "Or worse," Pookie echoed. "We're going to have to start watching our backs, even more than usual." The Depravdichuks lived in a tenancy in common house, or TIC, on the edge of Chinatown. In a TIC, you owned one floor or part of a floor, and thereby owned part of a larger mortgage. It was the only way many people could afford to own anything at all in San Francisco, and even TICs went for $650,000 at the cheapest. The Depravdichuks were the only Caucasian family in the 3-floor, 60s-era building, the design of which was plain brick and very un-Victorian. This was the Chinatown for the locals, not the Chinatown for the tourists. The local version of Chinatown does not feature shops with touristy crap trinkets, colored jade necklaces, luggage, and silk dresses. There are a few shops, sure, but those shops don't have a single sign written in English. The sun-faded and grease-speared menus taped to the windows of closet-sized restaurants have been there for years, and the grocery stores sell animal parts that, well, at least in the Midwest, would be thrown out rather than eaten. Every window has a row of clothes drying on hangers or pinned to a clothesline. This Chinatown isn't about the tourists. It's about cramming as many people into small apartments as humanly possible. The Depravdichucks lived on the ground floor. Bryan and Pookie walked by wet garbage stuck to the sidewalk and knocked. A wiry-haired woman answered the door. She had a pockmarked face and a body that made a crack whore look voluptuous by comparison. "What do you want?" "San Francisco Police, ma'am," Pookie said, as both he and Bryan flashed their badges. "Are you Roberta Depravdichuk?" "Yeah." "We want to speak to you about your son, Rex." "Foster son. He's not my child." "Yes, ma'am. May we speak with him?" The woman sighed, then waved the two men in, as if dealing with the cops was an old, tiring thing. She didn't ask what Rex had done, or even what he might be involved in. She just waved them in. The building had a layout common in San Francisco TICs. A narrow hall with narrow rooms only on the left-hand side. First, a living room, barely big enough for 2 couches and a TV. Then a bedroom that held a king-size bed with maybe a foot of walking space on either side. Then 2 tiny bathrooms, one with just a toilet, one with a shower and a sink. Beyond the double bathroom was a closed door, then the kitchen, then a door to a postage stamp-sized backyard. A backyard shared with the other 2 units of the TIC. But Bryan and Pookie didn't notice the kitchen, or the backyard. All they noticed was the drawing on the closed door. It was drawn on blue-lined notebook paper, torn out of a spiral binder, with a line of frayed holes running down the left-hand side. It was a triangle in a circle, with a line curving off to the left, and 2 slash lines cutting across that curved line perpendicularly. The same sign they'd seen written in blood on a dumpster in the alley where Alex Panos had been butchered. Scrawled across the bottom of the page were the words, "I dream of a better day." Bryan's blood ran cold when he saw the drawing. He fought the immediate and powerful urge to pull his gun. He traded looks with Pookie, who was obviously fighting that same urge. The drawing's lines were neat and clean, done in pencil with an artist's hand. "Ma'am, have you seen this drawing before?" Roberta looked at the drawing, then looked at Pookie as if he were stupid. "It's right in the door, isn't it? I see it every time I walk by." Bryan gently touched the paper's frayed edges. "How long has this been up, ma'am?" "How the fuck should I know? 2, maybe 3 weeks." Pookie took a step back. Bryan could see Pookie's right hand flexing. The hand wanted to hold its gun. "Open the door, ma'am. Now!" Roberta shrugged, oblivious to the tension filling the narrow hall. She knocked 3 times. "Rex, wake up! Someone is here to see you." No response. "Rex, you get your lazy ass out of bed." Still no response. "If you're playing with yourself, cover up, boy. I'm opening the door." Roberta tried the handle and found it locked. "You little shit," she said quietly. She walked quickly to the kitchen and came back with a single key on a Budweiser keychain. "I told you not to lock this door," Roberta said, her voice now flat and menacing. She unlocked the door, opened it, and stepped aside. Bryan moved in first, his hand not on his gun but very close to it. Even though it was the room of a 13-year-old boy, he moved in quickly, immediately sliding to the left of the small space so Pookie could come in behind him and move to the right. They swept in, not knowing what to expect, and found the room empty. Rumpled red blankets lay twirled up on a twin mattress. A small, beat-up wooden desk sat next to the bed. On top of the desk was a lamp with a yellow lampshade that looked more third-hand than second-hand. A small TV sat in the far corner, a video game console on the floor along with one controller. A window looked out on a narrow alley, filled with square plastic garbage cans, a dirty brick wall on the other side, barely more than an arm's reach away. A 3-drawer vertical dresser and a tiny closet were the room's only other features. But the room had walls. Walls covered with posters and drawings. There wasn't a single inch of wall uncovered. The posters took up most of the space. The Godfather, Goodfellas, The Usual Suspects, Carlito's Way, Once Upon a Time in America, Reservoir Dogs, Scarface. The drawings took up the rest. Drawings of guns, of people shooting each other, stabbing each other. Drawings of 60s-era gangsters. The kid was clearly a talented artist. He was no chooch, but hell, he was only 13. In the drawings, Bryan could identify each person on sight. Kyle Solar, Stacy Telling, Robert Wicks. Dozens of drawings of a teenage boy with big brown eyes and kinky, dry, red hair. Each drawing showed the boy with rippling muscles and confident movements. Killing Alex Panos, Jay Parlar, Paul Fisher, and Isaac Moses. Drawings of pain, drawings of death, and drawings of monsters. Bryan stared, then took in a long, slow breath. He knew the faces of these people. They were the faces of his dreams, the faces of the people that he had stalked. Some of them, faces he had killed. Fear put a cold steel grip on his nuts. He also knew the face of one of the monsters. Snake face, detailed, exactly as Bryan had seen it in that nightmare. Beneath the face was one word, written in superhero-style typeface. Sly.
Looks like Rex is a bit of an artist.
He draws all the time, Roberta said.
As long as he's in here drawing and keeping his little mouth shut, that's fine with us. Some of the subject matter is a little disturbing, ma'am,
Pookie said. He picked up one drawing that showed a snarling, Hollywood-muscled teenage boy tearing the arm off a perfect likeness of Alex Panos. Roberta shrugged.
We don't tell him what to draw. We've been in the city for 40 years, and here in the city, we don't try to control creative expression. Like I said, as long as he keeps quiet. I don't come in here much. Tell you the truth, the kid kind of spooks the hell out of me.
Imagine that, Bryan said.
So where is he, ma'am? Where is Rex?
Roberta shrugged.
I thought he was home. He must have gone out.
Bryan checked his watch. Where would he go at 9:30 p.m. on a school night, ma'am?
How the hell should I know? The boy doesn't listen to me. He's uncontrollable. Ma'am, Pookie said,
his voice now louder, firmer.
We need to find your son. Excuse me, your foster son. We need to find him immediately. I'm not playing around here, so start thinking of where he might be.
Roberta looked at Pookie, her eyes widening just a bit. It was as if a connection had finally clicked in her head. She had 2 San Francisco Police Department detectives in Rex's room, asking for Rex's whereabouts.
What's going on here? Why do you want him? We need to talk to him about a series of murders.
Roberta was about as helpful as a day-old dog turd. Rex didn't have any friends that she knew about. She didn't know his hangouts. She didn't know where he might be. She didn't know where he might go. A real caring, loving parent. Pookie stayed inside, asking her new questions, rephrasing old questions, anything he could think of to jog Roberta's memory. Many times people thought they didn't know something, but if you probed their mind enough, they remembered bits and pieces. Bryan and Pookie were old hands at the fact that most people didn't know what they knew. You had to help them figure that out, and that was the backbone of investigative work. That, and convincing them it was okay to talk to cops in the first place. Bryan went outside, into the alley. Rex's window led into that alley. Bryan went outside, into the alley. Rex's window led into that alley. Odds were the teenage boy often used the window to get out of the house unnoticed. Wasn't exactly the 50s-era oak tree growing outside the second-room bedroom window. It led into a trash-littered alley used specifically to hold large, square garbage cans, but it got the job done just the same. It was 9:45 p.m. A dim streetlight cast angled shadows into the alley. Bryan walked carefully, checking every step. They had a suspect now, and he had to be careful. Evidence could be anywhere. Kyle Solar's files from Galileo High showed that Rex Deprovdichuk had motive to commit multiple murders. And now the boy's drawings showed he fantasized about the deaths of each person that was either dead or missing. Rex was their man. Their boy, really. Bryan didn't know how a poor, scrawny, 13-year-old boy orchestrated such brutal, cruel acts, but he knew Rex was behind it all. Somehow he knew. But those drawings. Sly. How could the boy have drawn something Bryan saw in a dream? How was that even fucking possible? Bryan didn't know the answer, and he just didn't want to think about it. He focused on the alley. The alley smelled, naturally, of garbage. Maybe some dog shit rolled in there too. And piss. Every alley in San Francisco smells like piss. courtesy of the bums that seem to float through every neighborhood other than Pacific Heights. People with money make sure the cops roust any undesirables. But in Chinatown, no one roused the bums. And an alley like this was basically a public toilet for them. Shit, piss, and garbage. But Bryan smelled something else. Something faint, yet rich. It made his stomach rumble. He carefully walked forward, the smell growing stronger. He knew that smell, but he couldn't place it. It was something he'd smelled 100 times before. What was it? And why the hell did it send pangs of hunger through his stomach? Then he saw it. It took a moment for his mind to reconcile the sight of it, the smell of it, and the reaction that smell had on his belly. There, on the ground, half-dried and tacky like an hour-old paint spill. It was blood. Bryan knew, somehow, it was human blood. And the smell of it made him ravenous. He blinked twice, then turned, flipped open the nearest brown square garbage can, and vomited inside. The blood brought out the forensics team of Sasha and Jimmy. Sasha said it was, indeed, human blood. B positive, as a matter of fact. And that was all the information they could get out of it. It was collected, cataloged, and sent back to the forensics lab. They would run DNA sequencing on it, but that wasn't going to tell them much. All they could do was file the information away and see if it came in handy later on. In short, the blood itself didn't tell them shit. The amount of blood, however, that did tell a story. The owner of that blood had been cut bad. Enough that he or she would probably need medical attention. Bryan made a note to follow up with all the area hospitals for emergency room visits for patients with lacerations. They had to follow up, but something told him they wouldn't find the right victim. He went through the motions as if on autopilot. He couldn't shake that sensation he'd felt. He'd smelled blood hundreds of times in his career. Blood was part of the game for homicide detective. This time, however, he'd recognized it. Hell, he'd been able to track it in an alley that stank like shit. And it made him hungry. The smell of blood had never made him hungry before. The very thought was sickening. Why was it happening now? Pookie came out of the house, that intense look on his face. Pookie loved this shit. He ate it like candy. This was a real mystery, with seriously high stakes, and they finally had a suspect. This was the kind of stuff that Pookie dreamed about when he got up in the morning, and now that he was waist deep in it, he couldn't be happier. Pookie's expression changed from intensity to concern when he looked at Bryan.
Bri, you okay?
I felt better.
What's wrong?
Bryan shrugged. Just feeling a little sick is all. He couldn't tell Pookie about the hunger. That was just too much. The dreams, sure, fucked up, but the cat was already out of the bag, right? Visions of monsters? Pookie didn't seem to doubt that as a possibility anymore, albeit a remote possibility, at least addressed by the possibility of cultish men wearing costumes. But hunger? Hunger caused by the smell of fresh human blood? Well, that would be just too much for any partner to bear. Pookie had to be in the same car with Bryan after all, and thinking the guy in the seat next to you might like to help himself to a little between-meal snack would be too much to bear for even the most faithful friend.
You'll feel better soon, Bri. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and how do you know?
Because I know you, my little ninja. You've got a bug up your ass for Erikson. Rex is on the lam. We don't know where he is. You're antsy, so you're off to Erikson's. A little stalking will fix you up right. It always does.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm going to head over there. What about you?
Mongo goes sleepy time.
Okay, well, what about Rex? You're going to go to sleep with that kid running around out there? Pookie shrugged.
I already put out an APB on the kid. The force is looking for him. Other than that, we have no clue where he could be. No friends, no known hangouts. His foster mother doesn't know jack shit. Sasha took some crumpled up Kleenex from Rex's room. Said it was probably jizz. We'll have a DNA sample of Rex as soon as Sasha delivers it to Robin. If we're lucky, it'll match up with one of those Galileo murders, and we'll know we have our man.
You mean you'll know we have our boy? Pookie nodded.
True, but somehow I doubt Rex the Pravdachuk is heading to juvie. Regardless of his level of involvement in this thing, he's going to jail with the big boys.
The two detectives headed to Pookie's car. "I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves," Bryan said. "You're already trying him as an adult. We haven't even found him." Pookie nodded again. Slower this time. This fucked up kid was at the bottom of multiple murders, multiple disappearances. More death was sure to follow unless Bryan and Pookie could answer one key question. And that question was where? Where was Rex Deprovdachuk? He knew it made no sense. No sense at all. He was riding on a monster's back, leaping from rooftop to rooftop, many of the jumps carrying him clear across city streets and alleys. There was a monster on his left, a snake man, draped with a rotting, dark gray blanket that made him nearly invisible each time he stopped moving and bathed in the night's darkness. Beneath the blanket, he wore normal clothes: jeans, battered brown leather boots, a hooded, grungy red jacket that looked like it belonged on a homeless man. There was a monster on his right. Two monsters, actually. One, a massive, bulky creature that made Schwarzenegger look scrawny, but had a softball-sized head atop a pony keg of a neck. And a twisted, broken creature with no legs. In place of where the legs should be, a tail. A goddamn tail that wrapped around the larger creature's neck. The larger monster wore ripped sweatpants and multiple sweatshirts. At least 3. The quadruple XL garments stretched tight. Together they wore one king-size blanket, both faces peeking out through cuts to make it look like a two-headed poncho. At a glance, the two monsters looked like a single, dirty, misshapen man. The kind you wouldn't stare at. The kind you'd cross the street to avoid. Under one arm, the 2-for-1 creature carried a bloody teenage boy wearing a shredded crimson jacket. The boy was limp but alive, if just barely. The boy wasn't talking anymore, wasn't screaming, wasn't making any noise other than soft moans, really, because Rex had cut out his tongue. They stopped often, standing perfectly still, peeking over the roof's edge, waiting for lulls in traffic before launching themselves across that street to the next building. He remembered some stupid song by his hippie step-parents. Monsters to the left of me, monsters to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Maybe it wasn't monsters, maybe it was clowns. Like there was a difference anyway. It should have been the ultimate nightmare. A vision that would have left Rex pissing himself in the dead of the night. But it wasn't a nightmare. Not even close. He had never felt so good, so alive. He clung tight to his monster, smelling the delightfully damp richness of its brown fur, the pungent waft of clothes that hadn't been washed in weeks, an offensive stench, sure, but also somehow reassuring. A feeling of warmth radiated into Rex's chest and arms. Not just the warmth in the monster's body, but a deeper warmth, a feeling of love that made Rex want to cry. He corrected his thoughts. The monster was not an it. That was racist. The monster, he had a name. Pierre. They all had names. On his left, Sly. On his right, Servo and Fort, the 2-for-1 monster. He didn't know where they were going exactly, only what Sly had called it. Home. A word that had always been just that, just a word, a name for a place where he slept. He had never felt at home. Not in school with the assholes who beat the shit out of him on a weekly basis. Not in the streets of the neighborhood in which he'd grown up, and most certainly not in the place that was, at least technically, his home. It felt so strange to see the city from this perspective. Streets he'd walked probably hundreds of times over, at least, and he could barely recognize them. He knew when they went north across Jackson, of course. That was so close to his house. And the next street north was Pacific, but they were also moving a little west. He clocked Stockton, then, when Pierre waited for the right moment to cross Powell, he knew. "We're going to the marina, aren't we, Pierre?"
"Yes, my king."
Another wide leap, crossing Powell. Rex's heart seeming to float in his chest as the night wind ripped through his hair, through Pierre's fur. Such strength, such power. Once across the main street of Powell, it was child's play to skip from building to building on that block. Sly, Pierre, Fort, none of them made a sound. They crossed over a narrow alley, Rex didn't know the name. And then they were across from the boxy entrance to the Broadway tunnel. A narrow, dark road ran between their block and the blockish building, parked cars choking either side. A young couple leaned on one of the cars, making out. Rex and the monsters waited, silently. He didn't need to ask how much longer, because he knew they would move when the people cleared out. They waited for an hour, maybe 2, he wasn't sure, because he didn't mind the waiting, didn't mind the watching. None of them did. Sitting perfectly still and watching. That was how things were done. You had to sit still, not move, lest you draw the attention of the stalker, the murderer, the monster. That was right. That felt right. Those around him, Sly and Pierre and Servo and Fort, they weren't monsters at all. They were people. Real people. Not like those people making out in the street. Not like Roberta. Not like the kids at school. Those around him were family. The monster, the real monster, was the thing that killed his family. He guessed it was around 1 a.m. when the teenagers walked off. Their backs were barely turned when Pierre launched himself across the void. Rex sailed through the air, amazed that he could look down at the backs of the teenagers' heads, maybe only 40 feet away. And they didn't turn around or look up. They didn't even know he was there. The group landed atop the boxy building. Pierre kneeled, and Rex stood on his own. The wind whipped by, joined by the sounds of light traffic going in and out of the tunnel. Sly moved to a hatch and opened it, exposing a ladder. Sly smiled his long-mouthed smile.
"Are you ready, my king?"
Is that the way in?
Sly nodded.
"It's one of the entrances. There are many all over the city. We use them to come out and hunt or to hide from Savior."
I thought we were going to the marina.
"It's too late for that. We're always inside by morning, and daybreak is coming soon. We must get out of sight. This way is longer, but it will get us there. Are you ready, my king?"
Rex looked at the hatch, then at each of the monsters in turn. Not monsters, he reminded himself again. His family. He looked around at the city lights. The boxy building above the tunnel gave a commanding view of the area. So many houses, so many buildings, but so few lights. The city slept. The people slept. But they weren't his people. Not anymore.
I'm ready, brother,
Rex said.
Take me home.
Bryan waited. Bryan watched. He barely moved, more a part of the rooftop than a living human being. He watched 1971 California Street the way a cat watches a hole in which he's seen mice before. On a rooftop 6 stories high, he had a good view of the house's south side corner. He couldn't watch all of the house, and he'd picked his perch for 2 reasons. Number 1, he didn't think there'd be any action at the front of the house. If Erikson was the Robin Hood killer, he sure as hell didn't walk out the front door wearing a green cape and carrying a big-ass bow. Number 2, Erikson knew how to move, knew how to watch, and knew how to hunt. That much was certain from the amazing kill shot Robin Hood landed on Marco. Bryan could move too. He could move like a shadow. But in any hunting environment, the guy sitting still and quiet has the advantage over the guy walking around. Bryan couldn't circle the house because it was wedged into the constant wall of houses with no room on either side. His only other option would be to walk on the street in front of the house, because you couldn't see the back unless you walked through someone else's house to get there. So sitting high in the catbird seat, watching, waiting, that was his only option. The house as part of a wall analogy worked. A wall that followed the perimeter of the whole block. A thin patch of greenery sat in the middle of the block, behind the long, narrow houses and apartment buildings. A few trees, a few shrubs, a few regimented patches of grass. He could see all of the greenery, and that was important, because if it was Erikson skulking around in the hooded cloak, that's what he would use to get in and out. Bryan sat on an old paint bucket he'd found on the roof. That left only his head, from the nose up, exposed to anyone who might happen to glance towards the roof. Since he hadn't moved a muscle in hours, Any such nighttime glance would simply count the head as part of the building. 6 stories up, at 5 a.m. on a cloudy morning, Bryan was all but invisible. Erikson was the key. A customized arrowhead had killed Marco Gastineau. They had Erikson, who bought arrowheads identical to the murder weapon. There was no question he was the killer. So why was Chief Zoe protecting him? Was Erikson indeed a vigilante that had the quiet endorsement of the chief of San Francisco's police department? Bryan didn't know. So he waited. So he watched. Movement. From the back of the house. Smooth movement. Effortless movement. A walking shadow eased up from the back steps that led into the basement. A walking shadow, wearing a dark green cloak. The cloak hung almost to the ground, hood pulled up over the person's head. In the dark, slipping out of the trees, hood was a silent shadow sliding across the grass. The hood turned left, moving fast along the greenway behind the mansion. Instantly, Bryan lost sight of him beneath the canopy of a large round tree. Bryan caught one more glimpse of him. Then Hood turned right, sliding between 2 buildings into another narrow greenway that led to Pine Street. Bryan hadn't seen a bow, but he knew there would be one somewhere under that cloak. Bryan briefly thought of pursuit, but by the time he got down from the building, Hood could be blocks away, in any direction. He could call in an all-points bulletin for Hood, but he knew that would be futile. No one had ever reported a guy in a dark green cloak lurking about the city, with or without a bow. There was a reason for that. Because Hood, Savior, Erikson, was all but invisible. If Bryan hadn't been watching the house, specifically looking for any movement, he'd have missed Savior completely. As it was, he saw him come out of the house, watched him walk, and still lost sight of him twice in a matter of 50 feet. There was no point calling it in, because no one had ever seen Savior before. They sure as hell weren't going to see him now. The guy moved like a hunter. No, more like a stalking cat, silent and practically invisible. Hood had been in that house. Bryan might not be able to track Hood, not yet, not with the head start, but the house wasn't going anywhere. This was his chance to find some answers. Somewhere in that house, he knew he'd find custom-made arrowheads, the same kind that killed Marco Gastineau. Erikson, or someone working for Erikson, was a murderer and needed to be taken down. Bryan pulled out his cell phone, then paused. Chief Zoe was warning against anyone investigating the symbols, the arrows, and this guy had both. But this man had killed a witness in cold blood, right in front of 2 cops. Bryan wasn't going to let that go. He couldn't let that go. If Chief Zoe was indeed protecting this man, then she was going to have to face the music as well. No one is above the law. Bryan called Pookie, who answered on the 5th ring.
This better not be another dream,
Pookie said. Better. I just saw a guy in a green cloak, big hood, exit the rear entrance of Erikson's house. A brief rustling sound. Pookie probably pinching the phone between his ear and shoulder, scrambling into his clothes.
Are you trailing him?
Can't. 5 stories up. He moved fast, out towards Pine Street. By the time I got down, he'd be long gone.
You have positive visual ID?
Bryan thought for a second. He hadn't actually seen Erikson. He didn't know who was under that cloak. But it didn't matter. Dark green cloaks weren't exactly the fashion statement of the month. It was enough to go on. It was enough to search the house. Yeah, enough to get a search warrant anyway.
Kick ass!
But we still got to get a search warrant, Pooks, and we're not going to get one from Zoe. You got to call in a favor. You got to call Judge Rodriguez.
Dude, you can't be serious!
Hey, don't yell at me. You're the one who boffed her.
After 15 shots of tequila, sure, but I have no intention of repeating that performance.
Call her, Pooks. She'll take your call at this hour. We need that warrant, and we need it fast.
Fine, I'll call her. But if I wind up in bed with her again because of this, it's going to be you taking my nightmare calls at 3 in the morning.
Pookie hung up. Bryan continued to watch the house. There you go, junkies. I hope you enjoyed episode 15. Episode 16, 17, and 18. The shit really starts to hit the fan, and I think you're going to like it. So here's my post-episode chitter-chatter. We're going to cover 4 things. First, cover the new look at ScottSigler.com, talk about the book tour, talk about Blogger and Podcaster magazine, and then we'll talk about my big anniversary announcement. First of all, we got a brand new look going over at ScottSigler.com. Paul Rogolinski, known as Pulsar on the site, he helped me with a new design. We really wanted to emphasize the look of Infected, which is coming out April 1st. Make it clear we're pushing Infected, make it easy for you guys to go get Infected. So we've added all kinds of neat stuff in the sidebars. It's sharper, it's cleaner, it's a constant evolutionary process, and I think you guys should go check it out. It's kind of cool. Second, the book tour. If you guys live in LA, Seattle, San Francisco, New York, or Houston, this is your marching orders. I need to pack those places for the book tour. Some people at Crown really went out on a limb to do a book tour basically for a first-time author, and it's a bit unusual, but they believe in the power of the junkies, and I want to make sure that that belief is accurate. If you live in any of those cities, go to ScottSigler.com. The second post on the page talks about the book tour. It shows you all the links for the book tour. Go there, and I really look forward to seeing you in the month of April. This is going to be a great time for me. Get to travel to some different places, hopefully get to meet a ton of junkies. I know Houston is going to bring it. There's no question that Houston is just going to absolutely rock it. The question is, all you people in New York, Seattle, LA, are you guys going to be able to match what Houston can do? And I know San Francisco will be sweet because all kinds of junkies here in the Bay Area. The cover of Blogger and Podcaster magazine. Dan Klass wrote a story for Blogger and Podcaster, which you can see at bloggerandpodcaster.com. That's all spelled out. JC Hutchins and I made the cover, which is extremely flattering. We're really grateful to Dan, the people over at Blogger and Podcaster, Larry Ginkin, the publisher, Shelley Brisbane, the editor-in-chief, and everybody else there. It's quite flattering. The story focuses on the publishing deals that I and JC Hutchins have landed. It also talks a lot about T. Morris, Mur Lafferty, Mark Jeffrey, some other podcast novelists. What Blogger and Podcaster is saying is that audiobooks are the wave of the future. It's one of the places that podcasters are really connecting with an audience, and a place where there's actually a financial reward and a career reward to moving on. A lot of the other podcasting areas, there's just not a clear definition of how people are going to get paid for it, how people can turn it from a hobby into a job. But the audiobook authors are doing that. JC and I are the first ones to be out there, but by no means will we be the last. So do Blogger and Podcaster a favor. Go to that site, check it out. I'll have links to the article in the show notes of episode 15. And finally, that's right, the third anniversary of Scott Sigler podcasting. The third anniversary of Sigler's hubris-filled, ego-laden attempt to take over the world, which all started in March of 2005 with a little something I like to call Earthcore. That's right, we kicked off Earthcore in March of 2005. Here we are 3 years later. I'm getting ready to enter into my fourth friggin' year of podcasting. I still don't have my gold-plated caddy out front. It's close. I'm going to get it, and it's going to be parked right next to my gold-plated, diamond-encrusted tank, which I'm going to use to roll down Main Street of every city in this friggin' country and blow up city halls and rebuild everything so it looks like a giant statue of my bald, snarling head. That's what every capital in every city is going to look like. The Capitol building will look like my big, bald head. I think it's going to be beautiful. As a matter of fact, I'm tearing up a little bit right now. Oh, I'm getting distracted. To celebrate the third anniversary of all this podcasting stuff, I'm going to give you junkies a special treat. Even though Nocturnal is going to continue indefinitely till the story is finished, on March 3rd, I will be dropping the first episode of Infected, the exact same story that's going to be printed in hardcover on April 1st and be available as an audiobook on April 1st. Going to be releasing that as a podcast. So on Sundays, you're going to have Nocturnal, and on Mondays, you're going to have Infected. So this is all free. We're going to do Infected all the way through, episode 1, all the way through to the end. I think it's going to be a kick-ass time. You guys are going to have to wrap your head around 2 Scott Sigler podcast novels going at the same time. But that's how I'm going to put a fucking chokehold on this whole fucking industry. By giving you guys so much content, all you can do is think about
me and dream about me. And when you look down the street, every bald guy you see, you're going to be saying to yourself, could it be? Could that be my future dark overlord? And the answer will be no, because I don't ever leave the closet because I'm doing 2 podcast novels at once. But that's not the point. The point is, people, there's going to be a whole lot of friggin' content coming down your RSS feeds and available at scottsigler.com and available in your blog readers. And I expect you all to just eat it up and just enjoy it, because it's going to be oh so yummy. It's going to be good stuff. So that's it for this week, junkies. I'm going to leave you with a little request to call my gore line from one of the loveliest voices in podcasting. Now, I fully admit I haven't answered a single gore line call in probably somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks, which makes me a pussy. But still, I'm going to leave the number anyways, because that is something I will be addressing in the next few weeks. Make sure April 1st is on your calendars. Want to see you people at bookstores going out to get your copy of Infected in hardcover. And I want to see you at one of my Sigler Stank stops. Each stop will be followed by a pub crawl. So there will be books and there will be beer. So it'll be highbrow and it'll be lowbrow. How can you get better than that? Catch you guys later for episode 16.
If you would like to leave a message for
Scott Sigler,
dial 206-666-4673. That's 206-666-GORE.
Violence, sex, ale, dark age. Sword and sorcery meets medieval fantasy in my podcast fiction novel, Dark Age. After becoming trapped in a fantasy role-playing game, a group of friends struggle to survive in a harsh world filled with wizards, giants, dragons, and magic. So come hang out at the Busted Skull Tavern, where the ale is cold and the wenches are hot. www.kirkcast.com.
that was episode number 15 of the Nocturnal Throwback podcast. It's been a while since we had a post-episode chat, you and I. Do you have a nice cup of tea handy? Sit down, old friend, and let's have a talk. We had originally hoped to get GFL Book 6 out by April 1st, 2020. Obviously, that ain't going to happen. We then, in a fit of optimism, bumped that date to August 2020, and then, boom, COVID. Boom, COVID should be the answer to all of your problems. Hey, John, did you mow the lawn? Couldn't. Boom, COVID. It's out of my control. So now we're in a situation where all of the printing houses that we use are completely shut down. We try calling them. Sometimes we get a call back. Sometimes we get an email back 3 weeks later. Sometimes we get none at all. These are the same printing presses that Random House and Simon & Schuster and all those other people use for their domestically produced books, which means that when we finally do submit the final draft to our printer, there will be a backlog of books when the printer finally opens. Giving you an idea. And we don't know when that is going to be, frankly. No, the book is not done yet. So there will not be an ebook anytime soon. There will not be an audiobook anytime soon. As I said in the opener of this episode, we're hoping to have it out by year's end. We will keep you informed about hardcover, ebook, audiobook, all that good stuff. Now, before the episode, I mentioned you can get your money back for GFL 6 if you are very frustrated with us, or you just flat out need the money back. You don't need to give us a reason why. If you pre-ordered the hardcover and for whatever reason you want your ducats back in your duck folder, email info@emptyset.com. That is info at emptyset.com. Emptyset, by the way, it's the name of our company, in case you haven't heard before. Try to send that email to us from the email account you use to order the book. If you use one email account all the time, you probably know what that is. If you don't have it, or you don't remember what it is, or you don't know it, don't worry. We'll figure it out. But just email us info@emptyset. Now, very important, very, very important point of order. If you cancel your order, you can always order it again later when things get squared away from you or when you see we're actually putting it out. But if you cancel now, you will lose your place in line for the numbered editions. Remember, the GFL hardcovers are signed, numbered, limited edition books, and the numbers go with the order in which our customers place. The numbers go in the order with which the customers' orders are submitted. So if you're the 10th person to submit, you get book number, not 10. If you're the 100th person to submit, you get book number 100. If you are the 8th person to submit, you get book number 8. It's called math. Look it up. It's very obvious. If you cancel your order, back of the line, pal. You can reorder again anytime you want, but we will not be saving anybody's numbers or holding numbers. If you need to cancel it, we get you. When you want to reorder it, you will go to the end of the line if there are any books left at all. Remember, it's only a 2,000 copy hardcover print run. We're sorry for these delays. We are. We want to get you your book. We want to entertain you. We have to pay the bills around here, so sometimes projects get shuffled around. And the other big reason for this is we don't want to put it out until it's right. You deserve better than a half-assed attempt at a book to hurry up and do a cash grab. You guys give me your time, and time is the currency of life. So when you take your time to read one of my books, A and I treasure that more than you could possibly know. We take this very seriously. We want the time you spend with Empty Set Entertainment products to be as enjoyable as we can make it. So we want it right. And there you go. If you want your money back, no harm, no foul. Email info@emptyset.com. If you haven't ordered the hardcover yet, though, let me point something out. Now's a good time. Now's a good time to do it. Go to scottsigler.com/thegangster or scottsigler.com/book/the-gangster. Get your order in, your order right from us. These are hardcover, limited edition, signed, numbered editions. And the pre-orders not only get you the ebook for free, but also get you a galactic map of the GFL era Siglerverse. It's pretty impressive. And here's a hint. The map also works mostly for the Crypt era. I'm not saying I'm going to get to Crypt in the near future, but I'm saying it might be nice to have a map up on the wall. Oh, yeah. We love you. Take care of yourself. Stay smart. We hope you're still here when the book comes out. We hope we're still here when the book comes out with this crazy COVID going about. That is it. I am out of here. Have yourself a great day, and we will talk to you all real soon.
You have been listening to Nocturnal, written and performed by Scott Sigler. For more information, go to scottsigler.com. All music in this podcast provided by Uncrowned off their album Devils and Angels, available now at the iTunes Music Store.
Is it